Hi everyone, hope you're doing well today. I have three Americana projects for you today. And project number one, this is just some old fence board that I have. You could use one big piece if you have it, or you could buy a purchase piece, those pieces of wood that you can buy at Dollar Tree. Anyhow, I have some tongue depressors that I'm going to use to help put these two pieces together. And I'm going to use my tight bond glue in between the two. I'm going to cut these tongue depressors down so they fit where they don't show in front. This is going to be the back. And they cut with scissors. So this is just basically going to go ahead and make sure they stay together. I mean, you could just glue them together, but I like to put the tongue depressors in there just to kind of make sure that they don't come apart. So anyway, I'm just going to cut them to fit to where they don't show when I turn this over. And I'm going to put some glue in the middle. And I'm just using my tight bond glue because it dries pretty quick and it will bond this together where it's not coming apart. That and with the tongue depressors on the back. Now I just use the tight bond glue in the middle of these two boards, but when I put the tongue depressors on, I use a little bit of hot glue just to kind of keep it together until the tight bond glue dries. And I give it a good 30 to 45 minutes to make sure that it's dry enough to work with. I don't want it coming apart. So I will go ahead and put my tight bond glue on my tongue depressors, a tiny bit of wood glue, and then push those down. And then I'll set that aside to dry for, like I said, 30, 45 minutes, even an hour. And then I know that it's together. And trust me, that does not come apart after that. It's very sturdy. So now I have just some different fabrics that I have on hand. And this is part of a jelly roll that I bought on Amazon. I will link it in the description. But it's a Jubilee fabric, I believe. But I also have some other fabrics in there. And I also have a tea towel that I rip up. But I am just basically making strips that are, I don't know, probably around 50 inches long. It's really to taste as to what you want. But I'm doing them so they can be doubled over and tied, and I want them to be about an inch and a half to an inch. You know, I don't want them all the same. I'm actually doing different blue strips, different reds. I want different ones, and then I want some whites and off-whites. I'm also going to be using some pieces of lace that I have. I happen to have quite a stash, so I'm going to add that in there. Anything that adds texture and some different colors is a good thing to use. And I'm ripping them so that I get that kind of torn look, so it's a little shabby. So now I'm getting out some milk paint, and this is Denim by Sweet Pickins. And the way milk paint works, it's a powdered paint, and you put equal parts water to powder. Sometimes I add in a little extra powder, and I do this time as well. What I have figured out is the thicker your milk paint, the more cracking you'll get. You can let it thicken up just by letting it sit out, or you can add a little extra paint, either way. And I go ahead and mix it up, and I'm just going to stir it up really good, get all the lumps and bumps out. A whisk works really good on this, but this is working fine. And I am just going to paint over my boards. And you won't get a lot of cracking anytime you are putting milk paint on an unfinished piece of wood, because it'll absorb into the wood and you really won't get a lot, but that's okay. I want that milk paint look, that kind of uneven, unperfect look. I am going to heat it up with my heat gun after each coat, because I will get a little bit of cracking and a little bit of uh, crazing, but not a lot, because like I said, anytime you put it on a surface that is raw wood, it's just going to absorb into the wood and you're not going to get cracking. I am going to go ahead and take my little finger sander after I'm done with my 2 coats. There is a little bit of chipping on the second coat. I'm going to go ahead and sand that off. And now I have a stencil that is just some stars. I got this off of Amazon. I think it was with a pack of some others. I'll go ahead and try and find that and put that in the description also. So now what I'm doing is I am taking just some mineral paint, and this is Paint Couture's Pacific Pearl, and I am mixing it with salt wash. I do this almost all the time whenever I'm going to stencil. I basically make a paste with the salt wash, and the reason I do that is that your chances of it running are just a whole lot less, and it makes it thicker, it gives it texture, and it also creates just a good look, because it will basically show your stencil a little bit more. Now I don't make it super thick or super chunky, and I've tried it before with baking soda. Baking soda chunks up a little bit and flakes too much. The salt wash mixes really well, just to a smooth but thicker consistency, so that it doesn't go underneath the stencil as much as if you just use regular chalk paint. Your chances are really good that you're not going to get any smearing or smudging. And I'm not looking for perfection here. And here I'm just using a little sponge dauber. You could definitely use a stencil brush on this, and I do later. But I'm just going to go over the whole thing. And when I add on to the part that I didn't do over there on the edge, I do make sure that I don't go over anything that's wet, so I don't smudge it. And I'm just going to add a few more to the edge there. And while it's not perfect, no big deal. We can always spot fix it. We're not looking for perfection. This is going to be more of a primitive look. So if it's not perfect, that's okay. We're actually going to be sanding this back and distressing it. So anyway, I add to the rest of it and I finish it off. So now I have another stencil that says We the People, and I am going to be mixing up some more chalk paint with salt. And these are mineral paints from Paint Couture. So this is, this is Fusion Ash that I'm going to be mixing it with. It's not quite black. Whenever I do black, I usually don't do a very stark black. I usually do like an off black. And this is just a little bit, not, just a little bit of a grayish tinge to it. So I had already sanded this a little bit and kind of distressed it. But what I decided to do before I put on my stencil is I am going to go ahead and take some Fusion Dark Aging Wax. That way if I mess up on my stencil, I can easily wipe it off. Because we did this with a paint that does not have a top coat, we did it with the milk paint. if you seal it beforehand, if you mess up on your stencil, you can just wipe it off and start over. And I usually like to have some sort of sealant on it so that I have that option. So I'm going to be using that same mixture. I'm using Ash by Fusion. And I'm using mineral paints on these little pastes that I make so that I don't have to do anything or seal them after. Although I do anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and use a stencil brush on this. Mainly I find when I'm using a stencil brush, it works a little bit better for fine letters like this. And I'm dabbing it on, and this will give it texture, and it will also, like I said, it doesn't bleed nearly as much when you make this paste. And I'll just go ahead and do the whole thing. You can't see the black on the dark blue really well. I'm going to go ahead and add another color to this. I'm going to be using some antique paste by Pentart. It's an antique gold. And what I did is I moved the stencil over to the right a little. I placed it on top of where it was before and shifted it to the right just a little bit. And because this is already a paste, it's really easy to apply, and I'm just going in there and I'm going to go ahead and just go over all the letters with the gold. So after I finish my stenciling, I am putting 2 small screws on the bottom back of these boards. And what we're going to use those screws for is I have some rusty wire. You don't have to use rusty wire because you really don't see it, but if you do a little bit, then no big deal. You could use any kind of wire, really. Maybe even string. I don't know. I think the wire probably works better because it sits taut, but you're going to wrap it around both of those screws and make it kind of tight so you have a little edge on the bottom. And that is what you're going to use to basically tie all of your pieces on. You basically tie a knot in the middle and just start putting them on. And I try to split it like in 3s to try and add equal amounts and colors on each side, and just kind of eyeball it. It's not rocket science, and you just kind of go from one end to the other, and you can see how that wire just holds it in place. When I get all done, I do add another little screw in the middle and put just a dab of hot glue and put it on there just so that it doesn't droop. You know, I don't know that it really needed it, but it did keep it a little bit tighter. I don't show you doing that, but that's what I do. And anyway, I just keep tying these on. This is super easy. It looks like it would take forever, but it really probably only took me 30 minutes to do the whole thing. So after I get done tying all my pieces, I go ahead and trim the bottoms. I don't want them perfectly aligned. I don't want it super straight. I still want it to look kind of, you know, organic. But I don't want really long pieces. Uh, I want it similarly the same, and I'll go ahead and cut those. Now I added some beads and some wire on the top. I bought these beads at Hobby Lobby when they were on sale last year. And I do distress those a little bit. I take some black paint and some wax and mix it together. And now what I'm doing is I am spraying a mixture, my alcohol ink vintage thing. What it is it's Vintage Photo by Ranger mixed with alcohol in a spray bottle. And I just spray it, and I'm doing that just to grunge this up a little bit and smush them together. And that's going to just give me a little bit grungier, a little bit dingier look. You definitely could skip this part if you want. It works really well. You could do it with coffee as well, but this makes it permanent. Alcohol ink is permanent, and it gives the same look as coffee would have. But anyway, I just go ahead and spray it here and there, and I just kind of rub it all together. And that's it, guys. That is my finished project. I think it turned out really pretty. I hope you like it. All right, project number 2. This one is fairly easy. I am taking these little planters that you find at Dollar Tree, and they're always there. They're not hard to find. You could take the lettering off. It comes off with acetone, any type of acetone nail polish remover, but I'm going to be painting over them. I am just going to take some painter's tape, and I'm going to basically make some stripes. They're not going to be perfect. I'm just eyeballing it. And then I'm going to take some mineral paint by Paint Couture. And this is red velvet. And their mineral paint does have a primer and a top coat in it, which makes it good for this project because it'll stick really well to this can. And I'm going to go over it 2 times with the red paint and just kind of go in between my painter's tape that I put down. That on 2 of these cans. I make 2 of them with these red stripes, and I'm going to let that dry completely after I put 2 coats on. And now I'm going to do one of these cans with a blue, and this is Night Sky by Paint Couture. Again, it's a mineral paint, so it does have a primer and a top coat in there, so it will stick really well to these cans without having to do anything to them. And it's going to take 2 coats to cover it up, but it covers really well. So now I'm just going to pull off the tape, and we will have our stripes. And because of the fact that this is going on a slant. Obviously they're not going to be perfect stripes, but I'm not looking for that. And plus I eyeballed it. And then I'm going to go in after the red is completely dry, and I'm going to put in white stripes. And I'm not trying to be perfect on this, guys. I'm going out of my way not to be. It's supposed to be kind of a primitive look. And I am going to be using Pacific Pearl by Pinkator. But I'm going to let that red dry first before I do that. And now I'm taking that Pacific Pearl and salt wash mixture paste, and I'm going to put stars. I'm using that same stencil all over the blue bucket. And this time I'm using a stencil brush. It's a little bit more difficult because it's round, but it's really not hard at all, especially when you use the paste. The paste really keeps it from running, makes it a lot easier to stencil. Now I'm going over the buckets with the red stripes, and I am not being perfect. I am not. You could tape these and try and make it perfect, but I'm purposely trying not to. And I'm just going to go around it with 2 coats of this Pacific Pearl. It doesn't have any salt wash in it. It's just straight mineral paint, and it takes 2 coats to cover, but it covers extremely well. And it will be ready to go on to the next step. I do that on both of the red striped buckets. So now what I'm doing is I have another stencil, and it has USA. It's all in one piece, but I'm going to take different sections of it, and I'm going to go ahead and put each letter USA on these buckets. And I'm taping it down to help keep it in place, but I am going to have to hold it with my finger also and push it down to make sure the stencil makes contact. And I'm going to go ahead and use that black paint from Fusion Ash that I have mixed with salt wash to make a paste to go over this. And I'm using a stencil brush to do it. And it's only going to take 1 coat because it's such a thick mixture. And again, even though this is kind of difficult because it's moving around, it goes on really well, and I have very little problems with this. Now I'm moving on to the S. And the S is going to go on the blue one with the white stars. And I'm going to be going over this with that black mixture again. But this is going to have 2 parts to it because you can't really see the black really well on that dark blue. So we're going to go over this twice, but our first layer is going to be the black. So now we have moved on to the A. And again, I tape it down, but I mean, because this is a curved surface, you're going to always have your stencil trying to pop up. And so what you want to do with that is you want to hold all those pieces down with your finger and make sure that it's making good contact. You could also use a spray adhesive on the back of your stencil, and then it would for sure make good contact. That way you wouldn't have to hold it with your fingers everywhere. But anyway, it's not that big of a deal. So now I'm going back over the S, and I'm moving it over to the left a little bit because I want a black shadow effect. You're not going to see much of the black now, and I'm going to go ahead and take that white mixture that we had before with the salt wash, and I'm going to go over the S, and because I moved it over, you're going to have a little bit of shadowing with the black. Now you definitely could have put the red on this, the red velvet, but I don't know, I kind of wanted it to somewhat match the other letters. all of my paint is dry, I am taking some Fusion Aging Wax, and I'm going to be going over the whole thing. And remember, we used the mineral paint by Paint Couture, and it has a top coat built in, so I don't have to worry about getting too much wax in or changing the color of my paint, because I can wipe back as much as I want to, and I'm going to do that on all three of them. So now what I'm doing is I am using Pentart Rust Effects. It has 4 different colors, and then it has a texture mixture, and I'm putting that on some parchment paper right next to these pots. And I am going to put some rust effects on this, and I'm going to vintage these up a little bit. Of course, if you don't like this, you can always skip it. Anyway, so the orange, a lot of it came out more than I wanted. And I'm going to go ahead and use one brush and kind of blend them together. And here's the texture additive I'm going to put in each one. Rust has some texture. You could definitely have the same effect if you wanted to with different colors of acrylic paint and some sand. But anyway, this little kit makes it nice and easy and convenient. So I'm going to go over this in certain spots, just going to add each of the different colors in different areas where I think there might be rust, and I'm going to do that on all 3. One thing I do after I put all my rust effects on, I take my mister bottle and I spray all the rust areas. And what that does is it kind of blends the pieces, the rust together. And it would also make it drip. And it gives it, to me, a more realistic look. And I do that all over. And then what I do is I take my mister and I kind of wet that same rust effects that I have sitting there, and I make it very watery, and I will take my paintbrush and just put some splatter all around. And here they are all finished. I'm going to be using them as planters, so I left the inside the galvanized so that I could do that. But you could use these for all kinds of things, to put utensils in, or maybe make it into a citronella candle. Anyway, let me know what you think. Alright, this is project number 3, and this is going to be our last project for today. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Alright, we're going to be mixing up some milk paint, and we're going to go ahead and use that denim that we used before. If you want a little bit lighter blue, you could use cobalt. This is all by Sweet Pickins. And we're also going to be using cherry pie, and it's a darker red. If you want a lighter red, you could go with red wagon. And flour sack, which is the perfect white. It's not too white, it's not too yellow. I think it's probably the most favorite color that Sweet Pickins has. And again, the way the milk paint works is you put equal parts powder to water. I always tend to put a little extra powder because I like it a little bit thicker. Of course, you can just let it sit out a little longer and it'll get thicker. It gets thicker as it sits out. The one thing about milk paint is that it's only good for a certain period of time. I usually put it in these little containers with a top so it doesn't dry out too quickly. But in about an hour you really can't use it anymore. So you really don't want to mix up more than you're going to use. And so I'm going to go ahead and mix up all 3 colors, and I'm just using a little tongue depressor to mix them up. And then I'm going to let them sit for about 10 minutes so they get a little bit thicker. So while my paint's getting thickened up, I have this material. I bought this at Hobby Lobby, and I am going to tear it. I would say it's about 6 inches wide into one big long strip, and then I'm going to cut it. And it's probably about 8 inches in rectangles. Really, you can just eyeball it. And I'm going to go ahead and do 6 of these. And now I'm taking some more of my homespun fabric, and I'm just making some different color blue rectangles. And I'm going to be making some flags with this. You've probably already guessed that. And I have some other material that I'm going to go ahead and cut out some rectangles with it. And we're going to make a total of 6 flags, so I cut out enough pieces for that. So now what I'm doing is I am going to be gluing those smaller rectangles on. And I'm using Fabric Tack by Beacon. It is a great glue for fabric. It works way better than hot glue. You could use hot glue, but it's not as bulky, and it won't be as stiff. So I'm going to go ahead and glue on all of those rectangles. You could definitely sew them on if you wanted to. I am going to go over these later with my sewing machine, but if you wanted to, you could just directly sew them on and not even use the glue. But I'm going to do that for all 6. So now what I have is some spindles that I bought off of Amazon. You could definitely use just dowel sticks or anything that you have. But I thought these would be really cute. And we're going to take our milk paint that we mixed up, and I am going to do 2 of each color. And this is the Pacific Pearl, and I'm going to go ahead and do 2 of these. I'll do 1 coat and use my heat gun, and then I will do another coat and use my heat gun. I will get a little bit of cracking, but like I said, anytime you are putting milk paint on raw wood, you're not going to get a lot of cracking or chipping. Now, if you seal it, if I would have put a sealer on this first, a paint with a sealer or just a sealer top coat on it, it would definitely chip a lot more and crack. If you put wax on it, the problem with that is it acts as a total resist and your paint won't stick at all. It'll just completely peel off. So you probably want to do a sealer. So after those dry, I'm going to go ahead and take some Sweet Pickins oil wax in the dark. This stuff is amazing when you use it with milk paint. It will darken that paint up a little bit, and it'll get in all those little cracks, even though we don't have a lot. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the other colors, cherry pie and denim. I do distress these a little bit with some sandpaper, just on the little areas that are raised there. And I'm going to go through and do all 3 the same, and I'm going to put the dark wax on them as well. So I had let that oil wax sit on there for about 15-20 minutes, and then I wiped it all back, and this is the look you're going to get. And now I have all of my little flags, and I am going to be embellishing them a little bit. So I have some rusty stars. I'm pretty sure I got these from Factory Direct Crafts, but you can get them also on Amazon. I have seen them there. And I'm going to go ahead and be using that same Fabric Tack glue, and I'm going to be put a glob of glue in the middle because these are concave in the middle. I'm going to push in with them, and I'm going to go ahead and glue these rusty stars to some of the flags, trying to figure out which ones I want to put them on. And then I'm also going to take I have some very vintage, really they're antique buttons, and I'm going to be adding those as well. And just to kind of embellish them, make them all look a little bit different. And I just use that same fabric tack to put all of the buttons on. And these larger ones here, I went ahead and put some string in them just because, I don't know, I thought it looked nice. Anyway, I'm going to use the fabric tack, and trust me, this stuff works really well. This stuff's not, they're not coming off. After I get done embellishing all my little flags, I am going to go ahead and use hot glue to attach them to these spindles. And I am just going to put a bead of hot glue on the actual flag itself, on the part that I'm going to attach. And I'm okay with it having a raw edge. If it bothers you, you could always put some trim or something. Anyway, I think that's just part of the whole look. So all I'm going to do is figure out which flag is going to go with what spindle. And so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of, I don't know, just put the ones I think look the best with them. And then I'm going to put just a bead of hot glue, not a lot. I don't want it coming out all over the place. It doesn't take a lot to hold it. These aren't heavy. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of push that down and go with the spindle itself and push it in there. And I'm going to just do that to all of them. And I go through and I pull some strings and make them look a little bit more tattered. You definitely don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then I'm taking my alcohol ink mixture and I'm spraying it on just to make them look a little bit more old. And I'm going to do that all the way across on all of them. And that's it. That's our last project. I think they turned out really cute. The sky's the limit on this, guys. You could do so much with these. Anyway, they were super fun to make and a little bit different. I hope you like them. Well, that's it. Those are my 3 projects for today. If you're in need of any fusion, paint couture, sweet pick in the milk paint, pen art, IOD, or decoupage paper, you can get that on my website, rehatchdesigns.com. Free shipping after $50, flat rate shipping of $8 under that. Tomorrow is the release of the summer 2025 IOD. If you're in need of any IOD, guys, check out my website. Like I said, I do have free shipping after $50, flat rate shipping, and some really good prices. I also will have a video out tomorrow, and it will feature all of the new summer release IOD products, and I'm going to be making 3 things with that. So I hope I will see you again tomorrow. Anyway, everyone, take care, and I hope if I don't see you again, you all have a great Memorial weekend. And pretty soon I will be doing even more patriotic themed things for 4th of July. So this is just for starters. And I really appreciate everyone watching. And if you like this and got some value, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up, a like, subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. It really lets me know that you like the content and you want me to continue making more. And I will see you guys again soon. Take care. Bye bye.